7 Hollywood children they tried to hide. Number 3 is beyond disturbing. Behind the glitz, the red carpets, and the flawless smiles of Hollywood's golden age, there was a different story playing out. One hidden behind studio walls and locked bedroom doors. It's easy to look back on that era and think of elegance, the tuxedos, the champagne, the perfect family photos printed on glossy magazines. But what those photographs didn't show were the secrets, the lies, the children. For decades, Hollywood built its empire on illusion. Stars were carefully sculpted into perfect beings, family men, pure women, devoted lovers. But behind that polished image, the truth was often anything but pure. These were stories the studios would spend millions to bury. Pregnancies hidden, affairs erased, children growing up, believing lies about who they really were, sometimes not finding out until decades later. Some of these secrets were heartbreaking, others were truly disturbing, and in many cases the children themselves became victims of the image their parents were trying so desperately to protect. Today we're lifting the curtain on those hidden lives. The sons and daughters born from scandal, shame, and silence. From secret surgeries meant to hide resemblance, to affairs so shocking they nearly brought Hollywood to its knees. These aren't just stories about fame. They're about what happens when power, image, and deception collide. Because for every smiling movie poster, there was someone living in the shadows, carrying the secret that could destroy a legend. And trust me, by the time we reach number 3, you'll understand just how far Hollywood would go to keep its sins invisible. Let's begin with a man whose entire identity was built on a lie. A superstar who never truly knew who he was. Imagine growing up thinking your sister raised you, only to discover years later that she wasn't your sister at all. She was your mother. That's not the plot of a movie. That's the real-life secret that haunted one of the most beloved entertainers of the 1950s, Bobby Darin. Born in 1936 as Walden Robert Casado in the Bronx, Bobby was a child of music and survival. He was frail, often sick, and told he might not live past 16. But against all odds, he did more than survive. He became one of the most magnetic performers of his time. Splish Splash, Dream Lover, Mac the Knife. His voice filled radios. His smile lit up television screens. He was everything America wanted, young, charming, full of life. But behind the music and the spotlight was a family secret that no one dared to tell him. Bobby grew up in a tight-knit Italian-American family. His mother, Polly, was the woman who raised him, stern, loving, protective. And his sister, Nina, was the beautiful, free-spirited older sibling he admired. She was only 17 years older than him, but in his mind, she was just his sister. The truth? Nina was his biological mother. At 17, Nina had become pregnant out of wedlock, a scandal that could destroy reputations in the 1930s. To protect her and the family, her mother, Polly, stepped in. Together, they created a lie. Polly would raise the baby as her own, and Nina would play the role of the sister. For Bobby, that lie became his entire reality. He grew up never questioning the story until decades later, when cracks began to form in the family narrative. The truth came out during an argument. One day when Bobby was already a successful star, a relative blurted out the secret. That his beloved sister was, in fact, his mother. At first, he didn't believe it. He couldn't. But when Nina herself confirmed it, the foundation of his identity collapsed overnight. Imagine that moment. Everything you thought you knew about your life, your family, your past, instantly gone. Those who knew him said the discovery changed him forever. The once confident, fast-talking performer grew quieter, more reflective. His music took on a darker tone. He began writing about loss, about searching for truth, about who we really are, when everything we've believed turns out to be a lie. Friends said he never fully recovered. He was never the same. One close associate recalled, he went from chasing fame to chasing meaning. And in a way, that secret that deception haunted him until the day he died. Bobby Darin passed away at just 37 years old from heart complications, never fully making peace with the truth about his birth. It's heartbreaking to think about. A man who could fill a room with music but couldn't fill the emptiness left by a lifetime of lies. But as dark as Bobby's family secret was, it's nothing compared to what one Hollywood legend did to hide her own child. A deception so deep, it involved fake adoptions, false identities, and even surgery to erase the truth. Hollywood has always been a master at crafting perfect illusions, but few deceptions were ever as carefully constructed or as cruel as the one surrounding Loretta Young and Clark Gable's hidden daughter. It was 1935. Loretta Young was one of Hollywood's shining stars, adored for her beauty, her poise, and her devout Catholic image. And opposite her, filming The Call of the Wild, was Clark Gable, the rugged king of Hollywood. Already married and one of the most recognizable faces in the world. Somewhere between those long days of filming in the freezing wilderness, their on-screen chemistry became something much more dangerous. Loretta became pregnant. But this wasn't the kind of secret anyone in 1930s Hollywood could afford to have. An affair with a married man, a pregnancy outside of wedlock. It could have ended both their careers overnight. And the studios? They didn't forgive mistakes like that, so Loretta did something unthinkable. She disappeared. She vanished from public view for months, claiming illness. The studio covered for her, spinning vague stories to the press. Behind closed doors, Loretta gave birth in secret to a baby girl named Judy. And when she returned to Hollywood, she came armed with the perfect cover story. She announced that she had adopted a 2-year-old orphan. That orphan, of course, was her own daughter. From that moment on, the lie became law. Judy Lewis grew up believing she was adopted, never knowing that her adoptive mother was actually her biological mother, and that her father was one of the most famous men in America. The deception ran deep. It wasn't just social or emotional, it was physical. Gable was known for his prominent ears, a distinctive feature that Judy had inherited. To keep anyone from noticing the resemblance, Loretta reportedly had Judy's ears pinned back surgically when she was just a child. Imagine that. Having surgery not for health, but to hide who you truly are. As Judy grew older, she sensed something was off. She'd catch whispers, see the way people looked at her. There was a secret in the air that no one would explain. It wasn't until she was in her 30s that the truth finally came out. Not from her mother, not from her father, but from a magazine article. Hollywood insiders had always known. Everyone did, except her. When Judy confronted Loretta, her mother finally broke down and admitted the truth through tears. Clark Gable, by then, had already passed away, never publicly acknowledging the daughter he'd left behind. Years later, Judy Lewis wrote a memoir called Uncommon Knowledge, where she laid everything bare. Her life as the hidden child of Hollywood's golden couple, the years of confusion, shame, and loneliness. Loretta Young never publicly confirmed the truth while she was alive. Even after decades, the fear of judgment, the weight of that old Hollywood morality, still held her back. It's one of the most haunting deceptions in movie history. A woman forced to hide her child to protect her career, and a daughter forced to live as a secret to protect a lie. But while Loretta and Gable's scandal was covered in whispers and shame, the next story ignited outrage so massive that it reached the floor of the United States Senate and almost destroyed one of the most beloved actresses in the world. Errol Flynn was the ultimate movie hero of the 1930s and 40s. The charming rogue, the sword-fighting adventurer, the man who could win any duel and any woman. But behind that dashing smile and Hollywood glamour, there was a much darker story, one the studios fought desperately to bury. They called it the scandal that could have ended Hollywood. Flynn wasn't just a movie star. He was a cultural icon. Audiences saw him as Robin Hood, Captain Blood, the perfect gentleman thief. But off-screen, his behavior was far from heroic. In 1942, Flynn was accused of what the papers at the time delicately called statutory misconduct. 2 teenage girls came forward, and the case went to trial. Though he was ultimately acquitted, the testimony painted a troubling picture. A man who believed his fame placed him above consequences. That trial left a stain on his reputation that never fully faded. But what few people know is that the whispers didn't end there. Behind closed doors, rumors began to circulate that one of those young women, or another girl around that same time, had secretly given birth to Flynn's child, a daughter. If true, that child would have been born from a relationship that could have ended his career, or worse, landed him in prison. But in old Hollywood, money and power could hide almost anything. According to entertainment reporters and family acquaintances who spoke years later, a young woman claimed she had given birth to Flynn's child and was told to keep quiet for everyone's good. There were no paternity tests back then, no DNA, and absolutely no willingness from the studios to let a scandal of that magnitude reach the public. So the story vanished. The girl grew up in silence. No one ever confirmed it, and no one dared to dig too deep. Not when the studio system had entire departments dedicated to cleaning up messes just like this. For decades, the rumor sat like a ghost in Hollywood history. Never proven, never denied, but whispered about by those who remembered Flynn's reputation. And the more you look at the details, the more unsettling it becomes. Because if even a fraction of it was true, it would mean that one of Hollywood's biggest stars, a man celebrated for his heroism, was hiding a secret that went against everything he pretended to be. It's the kind of story that makes you question just how many of those glamorous old studio legends had lives built on silence and fear. Errol Flynn died in 1959 at just 50 years old, a lifetime of excess finally catching up to him. But his legacy remains divided. Half hero, half scandal. And somewhere out there, maybe, is a woman who grew up never knowing the truth about her father, erased not by fate, but by Hollywood itself. The studio system could erase almost anything, children, lovers, even entire lives, if it threatened the image they sold to the public. And no one understood the power of image better than Joan Crawford, a woman who turned motherhood itself into a performance. Joan Crawford was Hollywood royalty, a self-made star who rose from poverty to become one of the most powerful women in the film industry. She was the face of elegance, determination, and control. But behind that perfect image was a truth that decades later would turn her name into a symbol of something much darker. On paper, Joan Crawford seemed like the ideal single mother. She adopted 4 children, Christina, Christopher, and the twins, Kathy and Cindy. The press adored it. The newspapers wrote glowing stories about Hollywood's most glamorous mom. It was the perfect redemption arc. A woman who had it all, fame, money, beauty, but still had room in her heart for motherhood. But the reality behind those glossy magazine spreads was far more complicated. After her death, Crawford's eldest daughter, Christina, published a memoir titled Mommy Dearest, and it shattered everything. Christina didn't just claim that her mother was controlling, she accused her of cruelty, of emotional abuse, of using her children as props to polish her public image. In her words, "My mother didn't adopt us because she wanted children. She adopted us because she wanted applause." That line changed how the world saw Joan Crawford forever. The book described terrifying scenes, strict punishments, explosive tempers, and an obsession with perfection. But beyond the alleged abuse, Christina revealed something even more shocking. She claimed that some of the adoptions weren't entirely legitimate, that babies were obtained through backdoor deals with baby brokers, not proper legal agencies. If true, it meant that Crawford's carefully constructed image as a devoted mother was just another Hollywood fabrication. Children chosen not for love, but for publicity. Now, not everyone agreed with Christina's version of events. Her siblings, Kathy and Cindy, defended their mother, insisting she was strict but loving, not abusive. That divide created a permanent rift in the family and left the public wondering what was real and what was performance. And maybe that's the point. Joan Crawford blurred the line between reality and image so completely that even her own children couldn't tell the difference. She understood the power of perception, how motherhood could be turned into marketing, how emotion could be staged like a scene in a movie. She wasn't hiding a secret child like Loretta Young or Ingrid Bergman. She was hiding the truth behind her own motherhood. The truth that love, for her, might have been just another role to play. In the end, Joan Crawford's story became a Hollywood tragedy of its own. A woman who built her legacy on control, only to have that legacy dismantled by the voices of her own children. And as shocking as that was, the next story on this list isn't about lies told in secret. It's about a child who couldn't stay silent. A young girl who, in one terrifying night, turned her mother's glamorous world into a nightmare. Hollywood loved to call her the sweater girl. Lana Turner was beauty, glamour, and star power wrapped into one woman. She could light up a room with a glance, and her love life, filled with powerful men, famous names, and scandal, only made her shine brighter in the tabloids. But in 1958, behind the closed doors of her home, that glamorous image turned into something horrifying. And at the center of it all was her 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane. Lana Turner had been involved with Johnny Stompanato, a bodyguard and enforcer for notorious gangster Mickey Cohen. He wasn't a leading man from the movies. He was dangerous, possessive, controlling. And behind Lana's perfect Hollywood smile, their relationship was toxic and violent. On April 4th, 1958, that violence exploded. That night, Lana and Johnny got into a brutal argument in the bedroom. Shouting, slamming, threats. It wasn't their first fight, but it would be their last. Cheryl, just 14, was in the house. She could hear everything. She ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and rushed toward the chaos. In the middle of the screaming, she stabbed Johnny Stompanato once, straight in the abdomen. The man collapsed. Lana screamed. And just like that, Hollywood's glittering image cracked open to reveal a crime scene. The news spread like wildfire. The mobster boyfriend of one of Hollywood's biggest stars, killed by her teenage daughter. Paparazzi swarmed the house. The press had a field day. For weeks, America was glued to the scandal. The case went to court. Cheryl was questioned in front of the world. Ultimately, the killing was ruled justifiable homicide. She had acted in defense of her mother. But the damage was already done. The public image of Lana Turner was changed forever. People whispered about cover-ups, rumors that maybe Lana herself had stabbed Stompanato and her daughter had taken the blame to protect her. Nothing was ever proven, but the whispers never really stopped. Cheryl was never the same. She spent years trying to escape the shadow of that night, struggling with trauma, rebellion, and eventually rebuilding her life as an adult. She later came out publicly, wrote a memoir, and tried to claim back her story. But that single moment followed her forever. This wasn't a hidden child. It was a child forced into the public eye through violence, scandal, and fear. It ripped the mask off Hollywood's carefully staged perfection and showed the world the real cost of living in its shadows. And yet, even that tragedy isn't the darkest story on this list, because the next one belongs to a man whose legacy towers over cinema, and whose personal life left behind a trail of chaos, broken bonds, and hidden offspring no one fully kept track of. When you peel back the layers of Hollywood's golden age, you realize something haunting. Behind every glittering smile, every perfect photograph, every red carpet moment, there were secrets, children hidden, stories rewritten, lives quietly broken to protect the illusion of perfection. For decades, studios controlled the narrative. They told us who to love, who to trust, who to idolize. But they never showed us what fame cost. Because the truth is, it wasn't just careers on the line. It was families. It was children. People who grew up carrying the weight of lies they never asked for. That's the real Hollywood. Not the one made of lights and champagne, but the one built on secrets, sacrifice, and silence. If you made it this far, you're one of the few who looks beyond the surface. And I want to know what you think. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Was it Loretta Young's hidden daughter? Or the tragedy inside Marlon Brando's family? And if you love uncovering the secrets Hollywood tried to erase, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the next story we're covering is even darker. A mystery so strange, it was buried for almost half a century.